"So where did the Liberals come in?" Liz asked as she poured herself a bowl of cereal. "Not well," her father replied sourly. He'd been a solid Labour man up to the miners' strike in the 1980s. Then he'd had some kind of a falling out with the local party organisation and switched his allegiance to the Liberal Democrats. As far as Liz was concerned, he may as well be voting for the monster raving loony party, because they both had about the same chance of going into government. "What are you planning on doing today?" he asked. "Well, I was planning on having a lie-in, but that didn't work out. So now I'm thinking of heading back to Preston after lunch. Would you like a lift to the train station?" "Yes, please." The thing about home being in Leeds and going to university in Preston was it was just close enough to bounce back over a weekend and far enough to be awkward. Her dad had insisted she come home for the election to vote. Liz had pointed out that she had a voting card in Preston, but no, he said, Leeds was her home. The city wasn't a bad place by any means, but Liz had already decided that when she finished uni, she wasn't coming back. There was a big wide world out there, why limit yourself to just one piece of it? The trains were never all that reliable on Sunday. Actually, since privatisation, they were never all that reliable at all. But on Sunday, you could really count on that unreliability. So Liz wasn't surprised when, on reaching Manchester Piccadilly, she found her connecting train had been delayed. Rather than sit around in the station, she decided to go shopping, or at least window shopping, since there wasn't enough in her purse to fund anything more serious. Slowly, she meandered through a few shops, tried on a couple of outfits, before finally heading to Marks and Spencer's to get a pair of socks, which she definitely needed and were just about the only thing she could afford. As she poked about, Liz glanced around. The shop wasn't all that busy for a Sunday. In fact, there was only one other woman in the same section, and she seemed intent on doing some serious shopping. In fact, there was something about her that made Liz take a second look. Her face was attractive, but weirdly ageless. Liz would have put her anywhere between her 30s and her 60s, but since she was moving easily, it suggested the former. However, her clothing looked as if she'd taken fashion tips from the Queen Mum. She was at that moment searching through a rack of crop tops. "Yeah, you do need a fashion update," Liz muttered to herself, before something else caught her eye. It was a man standing up against a nearby wall. Unlike the ageless woman, in his case Liz could make an estimate of his age, somewhere between his late 30s or early 40s. Although, like the woman, his choice of clothing was odd. His loose trousers were held up by braces, and his white shirt and tan-coloured trench coat gave the impression he'd either escaped from a period drama or merely lacked a suitable hat to go hunt for the lost ark. Did the Queen Mum have herself a toy boy? He didn't look bored as such. In fact, his face was expressionless as he watched the woman. There was something familiar about him, and Liz flicked through her mental filing cabinet to check if he was someone she should know. Nothing came up. The way he was standing made her think of a bodyguard. Was the woman someone famous? Liz looked at her again. The strange lady was still looking through racks of clothes, checking some of them with a tape measure and making notes on a pad. Well, if she was famous, she wasn't all that famous. Liz looked back at the man, and their eyes met. His widened, and a whole range of emotions crossed his face, too fast for Liz to read. But one came up front and centre. Alarm. Before Liz could react, he stepped forwards and grabbed the woman's arm. Whatever way he did it, going by the way she went bolt upright, it must have hurt. He said something urgently and she glanced at Liz. Unlike him, there was no recognition in her eyes. Then the man spun her around and virtually frog-marched her towards the exit. "What the?" Liz muttered as she watched the pair make their way across the shop. Before she could think about it, she was following them. The man didn't slow his pace as he and the woman left the shop. Instead, he turned right and, still tightly gripping the woman's arm, wove her through the human traffic. In fact, he did it with such ease that Liz struggled to keep up as she battled against the tide of Sunday shoppers. She just about managed to keep pace though, and although the man didn't look back even once, she got the distinct impression he knew exactly where she was.